Henri de Lorraine, the third Duc de Guise and second Prince de Joinville, also known as Henri I De Guise, was born on December 31st, 1550, as the eldest son of François de Lorraine, the second Duke of Guise, and Anne d'Este. Through his mother, Henri was descendant from King Louis XII. Henri's father died when Henri was only 13 years old. He was then placed under the guardianship of his uncle Charles, the Cardinal de Lorraine, who was responsible for his education. Concerned about his military training, the Cardinal encouraged him to travel through Europe to gain military experience. In 1565, the Guise fought in Hungary against the Turks. When the adult Henri returned to France to lead the House of Guise, he took over his father's position as a Catholic leader. In order to maintain the prestige and popularity of his house, he actively participated in the Second and Third Wars of Religion, alongside the Duc d'Anjou, who would later become King Henri III of France. De Guise distinguished himself at the battles of Saint-Denis in 1567 and Jarnac in 1569, where Louis I de Bourbon, Prince de Condé, was assassinated. Furthermore, he took part in the Battle of Moncontour in 1569, during which he was wounded. At the age of 20, Henri de Guise had the ambition to marry the king's sister, Marguerite de Valois, hoping to strengthen the ties between his house and the reigning dynasty. But this alliance, which was not to the liking of the Queen Mother Catherine de Medici, was not to be. Henri de Guise therefore married Catherine de Clèves, Countess of Eu, the daughter of François I de Nevers, and Marguerite de Bourbon-Vendôme on October 4, 1570. Their union would produce 14 children, of whom 7 children reached adulthood. Those 7 are Charles, who succeeded his father as Duc de Guise, Louis III, Cardinal de Guise, who would become Archbishop of Reims, Claude, Duc de Chevreuse, who would marry Marie de Rohan, Renée, who would become Abbess of Saint-Pierre, Jeanne, who would become Abbess of Jouarre, Louise Marguerite, who would marry François, Prince de Conti, and finally François Alexandre, a Knight of the Order of Malta. Some people suspect Henri de Guise of having ordered the murder in 1572 of Admiral Gaspard de Coligny, who was the leader of the Protestant party. The Duc de Guise is said to have wanted to avenge his father François, who had been murdered 9 years earlier by the Huguenot Jean de Poltrot de Méret, as the admiral had publicly rejoiced in the death of Henri's father. Numerous incidents had broken out in the late autumn of 1571 between supporters of de Guise and those of Coligny. Letters to the Cardinal de Lorraine, who was in Rome at the time, shows that de Guise's main intention at this tense time was not to displease the king and to accept peace. On August 24, 1572, during St. Bartholomew's night, Henri led the troops that were to execute Admiral de Coligny, the man he held responsible for his father's death. He was present when de Coligny was killed. Accompanied by his uncle, Claude II d'Aumale, Henri de Guise then hunted down the Protestant leaders who had managed to escape to the Faubourg Saint-Germain on the left bank. Henri was therefore not in the city at the height of the massacre. He only returned the next day empty-handed, without having been able to capture Count Gabriel de Lorge, Count of Montgomery, the Huguenot military leader. During the following days, de Guise ensured the restoration of order in the city upon the king's orders. Sent into the streets to stop the massacres and looting, together with his uncle, he controlled the city gates and issued passports to those wanting to leave the city. During the reign of Henri III, the Duc de Guise continued to serve Catholicism. He increased his fame by defeating the Protestants at the Battle of Dormans in 1575. Henri received a major facial wound which left a physical mark on him and which gave rise to his nickname Henri Le Balafré. In 1584, Henri III appointed Henri of Navarre, the head of the House of Bourbon, which was the rival house to the House of Guise, as his legitimate heir. This caused Henri de Guise to start a rebellion supported by King Philip II of Spain. Consequently, Henri de Guise was banned by the king. Although Henri was banned, he returned to Paris on May 9, 1588, to participate in the Day of the Barricades, a public uprising in Paris against the moderate, hesitant and temporizing policies of Henri III. By now, he was suspected of being in the service of Philip II of Spain, who was preparing a decisive offensive against Protestantism by sending the Spanish Armada against England on May 29, 1588. All these threats weakened Henri III and forced the king to sign the Edict of Union on July 15, 1588, by which Henri de Guise became Lieutenant General of the armies of the kingdom. Whether the Duc de Guise really wanted to seize power remains a matter of debate for historians. The fact remains that, in the eyes of the king, Henri de Guise became a rival who needed to be eliminated. Because of the scarcity of money and the ongoing wars of religion, the États Généraux was convened on October 2, 1588, at the Château de Blois. At first, the news of the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588 strengthened the king's position, but soon a significant number of the attendees supported Henri de Guise. On December 17, 1588, Louis le Cardinal de Guise, who was the representative of the clergy at the États Généraux, is said to have toasted his brother Henri with the words, "I drink to the health of the King of France." On December 23, 1588, Henri III summoned Henri de Guise to his chambers at the Château de Blois. Henri de Guise suspected the king was going to appoint him to a higher position, but on his way to the chambers of the king, Henri de Guise was ambushed by 8 members of the king's personal guard. Henri managed to fight back and wounded 4 opponents before he collapsed and was pierced by around 30 sword and dagger blows. His brother Louis, who heard Henri's cries of distress, rushed to aid his brother, but was immediately arrested. De Guise's body was entrusted to François du Plessis, the Grand Provost of France, and father of the later Cardinal de Richelieu, who ordered Henri de Guise's body to be dismembered and burned, after which his ashes were scattered in the Loire River. Henri's brother Louis was also executed. His remains underwent the same treatment as these of his brother, and his ashes were also thrown in the Loire River the very next day. Thank you for watching.